In this video, I'll be revealing where you rank compared to nearly 5 million Americans based on Vanguard's latest study titled How America Saves. I'll link to that study in the comment section below if you want to take a deeper look. Now, if you're in your mid-50s and retirement is just around the corner within the next 5 to even 10 years, this video is specifically for you. Now, I went through and analyzed all of this data, covering everything 401k and retirement savings related, which includes average account balances, savings rates, catch-up contributions, how people are allocated and invested, and what people your age, as they approach retirement, are doing. Did all this so that you don't have to read that full study. We can highlight just the overview and dive into it together, and more importantly, figure out what you need to be doing to right-size your retirement. Now, here's what I found. You're in the most critical decade of your retirement savings journey. This is it. This is your window. And the decisions you make today, right now, will determine whether or not you can retire comfortably or if we're going to encounter some challenges and struggles in the next few decades ahead if we don't get to work. That's exactly, again, why I'm making this video, to pull apart that data and show you exactly where you stand compared to other individuals as they approach retirement and what you should be doing by now and have saved in those specific moves that we need to make to right size your final stretch to secure your retirement. Without further ado, let's dive on in to that study. Before we dive into the numbers, here's what you need to understand. This is a massive study taken on by Vanguard, covering 4.8 million Americans and retirement savers, giving us the most accurate picture of where people actually stand with their retirement savings. Now, these figures reflect where savers are today, not where they should be. Two very different scenarios. It's where people are today, not where they should be. So while averages are really helpful, what really matters, what we have to keep in mind, is you. It's your retirement number, how much you need, how much your expenses are going to be when you want to retire, what your goals are, and what you want your retirement savings to look like. Now, that aside, here's what we know about the average saver within the study. They're 43 years old, been at the same job for about 6 years. Median basis, they make about $90,000 a year, and they've managed to save, on average, about $100,000 in their 401k. Now, before you click off, we know that's not you. You're in your 50s, you've been likely working for decades, and you probably have a much higher 401k balance. And so it should come as no surprise that your peer group, that's individuals 55 to 64, has the highest savings rate at nearly 10% and the largest 401k and retirement savings balance is at nearly $300,000. Now, why is this? Well, you're nearly at the peak of your earning career. You've been in the same job for probably a long time, and you've been saving for much longer. And most importantly, you realize retirement's just around the corner, so we're loading up that 401k and retirement savings, which as much as we can. Now, if you're not quite here yet, this is significant. This is a wake-up call and a reality check. It's often a motivator for changes. So let that be a big change for you. Now, as I mentioned earlier, if you're at the 300,000 or you and your spouse are at 600 combined, that's a great start. But again, let's not let averages drive our retirement decisions. We need to, again, remember what we need for our unique retirement and how much we're going to spend. So again, watch that video that I'll link to in the show notes here, figuring out how much you need to calculate. So let's not get ahead of ourselves if we're above the average, but instead recognize how much we need to have saved for our unique retirement. Now, let's go ahead and dive into savings rates, average account balances a bit further in this next section. Let's first focus on our overall contributions into our 401k accounts. Now, the median deferral rate, so the savings rate from our paycheck into our 401k, comes out at about 6.8%. Now, for folks 55 to 64, that number jumps to 9.3%, and even higher at 65, it jumps from 9.3 to 10.1, which is fantastic because that's nearly 70% more than the overall average. And when we combine an employer match, we're now looking at an average of 11.5%. This is fantastic. Now, I don't want us to get too ahead of ourselves because percentages, they don't matter. What we should still be focusing on based off that video that I made is how far are you away from your retirement? It comes back to knowing our number and what percentage or what dollar amount we need to save. See, what I would encourage you to do, if we are that empty nester, if our expenses are starting to go down and we are in the final couple years before retirement, let's look at our cash flow and figure out how much we can aggressively save. We'll talk about it in a later section of this video, where if we're over 50, some of the advantages that we have of being able to stretch out and maximize our retirement contributions compared to other age demographics. But let's throw percentages out the window, get rid of this study for a minute, and figure out for your specific retirement how much you can contribute. Now, if you're already maximizing your retirement account contributions, whether that's $23,500 or that's $31,000 if we're over the age of 50, what I want you also to consider as we approach retirement is thinking about either two things. One is utilizing our backdoor Roth contributions. We call this the mega backdoor Roth, where we can contribute more into our retirement savings through the employer match provision by using after-tax dollars. So we'll want to check with our HR, review our packet, and see if that provision, the mega backdoor Roth contribution, is available in your plan. And number two, if it's not, or we want to have more tax flexibility, this is where, after we've maximized our retirement account contributions, looking at a brokerage account. We love the brokerage account. It's the unsung hero of retirement savings because it doesn't have maximum contribution limits. You could tap into the fund or the account rather at any time. There's no age limits, and taxes. Most importantly, distributions from this account at any age are taxed at capital gain rates, which could be anywhere from 0, 15, or 20%, with most of them being at 15, only on the earnings portion. So we love going into retirement of being able to have a balanced retirement savings plan of pre-tax IRA 401k money, brokerage savings taxed at capital gains, and then Roth if we have the resources to put money in after-tax savings. One last tip on contributions before we move on to our next topic. That is annual automatic increases. Keyword there being automatic. Now, this is huge. 45% of those surveyed said that they are increasing their rates annually automatically. And we're talking about a 1% increase. See, most of us won't even notice another 1% taken from our paycheck. This is a perfect way to trick ourselves into saving more for retirement. In fact, it's one of my personal favorites because it's so insignificant, 1%. And so if you haven't increased your contribution rate in the past year or even longer, hit the pause button and do that now. So now that we understand account balances, savings rates in each of their respective rankings, and where you fall within that order, if you need help with your retirement planning and understanding how much you still need to save before retirement, how to catch up, or figuring out just, am I on track? Click on the link below and I'll send you a personalized Loom video showing you the exact steps you need to plan your dream retirement. Click on the link below. We'll send you that video. Now, savings rates show important contribution patterns, but your overall account balances, that's the number that moves the needle and is going to determine who's actually on track for retirement. And we've touched briefly on averages, but I want to dive a little bit deeper in this section. Now, if you read the study, you'll notice there's a huge gap between median and average account balances. Now, that's a matter of math, but we choose to focus on the median as being the much more reliable figure. Now, while data suggests that the average 401k balance among soon-to-be retirees, as you'll see on the charts, about $271,000, with the median hovering around $100,000, a couple important things that we want to keep in mind. One, retirement specific to you, but these balances in the study only represent your current job's 401k. Does not count outside assets. Okay, keep that in mind. It does not count old 401ks, IRAs, Roth IRAs, brokerage, trust assets, anything like that. So if we have outside assets, we're going to need to add that to our figure here. Not to mention, for folks that are married, we now have double the assets because, well, there's two people that we have to consider when we're planning out our retirement. Again, I'll link to it in the show notes. I made an entire video showing you exactly how much you need to save for your retirement. And so if you're feeling behind, in this video, I'll break down the math that you'll need to calculate how much you need to start saving today to reach your retirement goals on time. One of the things that we could also infer from the data is that participants 55 years or older have significantly higher balances. Well, it's because they've been working longer, but also generally higher income because, well, you're at the peak of your earning career, traditionally in your 50s. And then Because your household expenses look different than those of maybe young families, higher savings rates. And so those are three big factors leading to larger 401k balances. But here's what I found that was really interesting is throughout all the study, the two most significant factors contributing to the largest retirement account balances were income above 150,000 and the amount of time you've spent with your employer. You see, participants with 10 years or more at their current employer had on average a much higher retirement balance. And I could tell you as a retirement planner, some of my clients that have significant success in retirement with large 401k account balances are those that have stayed in their job for decades, those that have gotten promotion and raise after raise. They've saved diligently each time they've gotten a raise. So if this is you, use those two metrics to your advantage. Now, regardless, understanding your balance and where that ranks helps identify whether you've accumulated enough wealth or if we still have some work to do. Now, if we're significantly below these figures, a couple things that we need to consider are trying to increase our savings rates, using catch-up contributions, which we'll dive into for those 50 or older, to our advantages, or potentially working just a little bit longer. And then lastly, reducing our retirement spending to stretch out our retirement balances. Now, these comparisons, they're not meant to discourage you. Rather, they're meant to give you a benchmark and clarity on how we need to approach retirement, how we need to together make smart decisions while there's still time, while you're still working. I've seen it time and time again. That is, individuals in their 50s, usually happens after the kids leave or right around the kids going to college, where they have that wake-up call saying, hey, retirement's in 5, 10, maybe 15 years. We really got to put the pedal to the metal and get started saving for retirement. And I can tell you, I have worked with countless folks who've been in that exact situation, and over that 10-year span, really got it into gear and were able to retire on time and even ahead of time because of the significance and the importance that they placed in that moment in aggressively saving for retirement. So again, if that's you, go ahead and click on the link below. We'll send you a personalized Loom video outlining everything you need to do to kick it into gear if you're feeling behind. Two factors that I briefly touched on in the beginning of this video that I want to highlight their importance before we dive any further into investments and how to build and design a retirement portfolio. These are maximizing your employer's match. That's table stakes. That's free money. And second, knowing the special catch-up provisions if you're over the age of 50, and bonus, if you're between the ages of 60 and 63 that are available to you. So we need to know those. We're going to dive into that in just a moment here. Now, your employer match, as I said, it's free money. And at this stage in your career with such a short time before retirement, you cannot afford to leave that free money on the table. So if you're not confident that the amount, the percentage that you're putting into your 401k is at least up to the employer match, hit pause on this video, go update that now. If you're over the age of 50, you actually have access to a really powerful retirement savings tools that younger workers don't have access to. And in fact, most people aren't aware of this and they're not taking advantage. We saw this in the survey data from Vanguard. See, at age 50, the IRS allows you to contribute an extra $7,500 a year on top of the $23,500 limit into your 401k, 403b. That means you now can put up to $31,000. It's $7,500 extra into your 401k. So make sure you've adjusted your savings rates to hit that limit, because a lot of plans won't do that automatically. Now, this is where it gets even better. There's new legislation passed through the One Big Beautiful Bill that says if you're between the ages of 60 and 63, you qualify for a catch-up or a super catch-up contribution. Instead of being able to contribute $7,500 extra, you now qualify for an extra $11,250. That is, if we do the math here, $3,750 more. This means that those in that window can contribute up to $34,250 of total retirement savings. And this is significant because the government recognized this saving shortage and realized that most people in their early 60s often realize that they're a little behind and they need more tax incentives to make that final push into retirement. So let's walk through an example together. We'll say you're age 60 right now. We're going to work until 65. So we have 5 years. Well, from 60, 61, 62, 63, right? Those 4 years, we can contribute an additional $3,750, which means our total amount above that $2,350 is $11,250. So for 4 years, that comes out to an additional $45,000 of extra retirement savings. And if we work 64 and even into 65, that drops back down to $7,500. Over 2 years, that's $15,000 in additional savings. Now, we put that together, that's $60,000 in 5 years of extra contributions. Now, on a 7% growth rate, that's almost $75,000 of additional money. And here's the beautiful part that I've personally noticed in working with folks right in this window is they actually have more money in their budget than they actually realize because, well, let's think about it for a second. Kids are probably out of the house. You may be empty nesters. Your kids are either done with college, getting close to, or on their own, financially independent and married. Your mortgage might be paid off or close to it, and you're probably earning more in your career than you ever have before. And lastly, you have less financial obligations than you did when you were raising a young family or 10 or 15 years ago. And so this is your window to make that final push and make up for any lost time that the government is quite literally giving you a tax incentive to save more for retirement. So again, if you have the extra money, go and do so. And so one other thing I want to touch on. If you're in a great financial position already, you're already maxing out your 401k, what we talked about in the beginning of this video is you still have plenty of options to consider if you want to continue to aggressively save for retirement above and beyond your 401k, whether that's using after-tax contributions to fill the gap between your contributions plus your employer match up to that overall limit, about $70,000, through a mega backdoor Roth, or if your plan doesn't allow for that, using what I love, which is known as the taxable brokerage account because of its tax favorability, right? Capital gains on distributions. And you can put as much as you want in, and you could take money out at any age. We know employer matches and what we contribute go a long way and boost our retirement savings considerably. But this last section, investment returns, what we see and what I know as a financial planner will show that your portfolio choices really affect your long-term portfolio balance and will drive significant results. At 55, as you approach retirement, your investment strategy absolutely needs to look different than somebody in their 30s or 40. We need to act our age because we're now approaching retirement and therefore we're playing a different game. And as a result, your investment plan needs to now include growth, but also income. Growth, but also protection to preserve what you've accumulated and worked so hard for. And if you're not, you're setting yourself up for considerable risk when that next bear market comes knocking, which could result in needing to work extra years if our account's too aggressive, and now we have a considerable decline. Now, the Vanguard data shows on average returns in 2024 were about 13.7%, which tracks that of the 60-40 portfolio. But when we look deeper into that, it doesn't tell a full story. What's interesting is that the participants' equity allocations increased from not 60-40, but from 72% stocks to 75. So we're taking on more risk, but getting the return of a 60-40 portfolio. This is incongruent. Now, seeing our stock allocation jump from 72 to 75, this is very common in a bull market if we're not rebalancing. Stocks grow traditionally at a higher rate than bonds, and as such, they tend to overtake the portfolio again if we're not rebalancing. But this is important. This also means people are actually getting more aggressive as we get into retirement and are setting themselves up for far more risk exposure should a bear market unfold, right? We're going to have more volatility in a more aggressive portfolio. So we have to remember to rebalance. Now, even more shocking here with the steady finds is that people aren't diversified. It's okay to have a home bias in the US, but what we traditionally like to see in a balanced portfolio is somewhere between a 60 to 65% allocation to US equities and the rest to international and emerging markets. Average allocation right now, according to Vanguard studies, is 82% or higher to US equities. Now, this is significantly, as I mentioned, higher than the global market cap weighting. Having this much allocated to US equities is highly dangerous. Now, we know the market's done considerably well since 2008, but the market International versus domestic, they don't always move in lockstep. There's times where international and developed markets have performed considerably better, whether that's during times of a weaker dollar, higher US inflation, or during the great financial crisis or higher inflation, as you'll see here. And so being able to have a diversified portfolio means that when things are out of favor here, we could still benefit and smooth out that ride to build a more resilient portfolio. Now, 42%, what we saw in the Vanguard study, of participants are using target date funds. We love these if you don't have an advisor, because this keeps us out of danger, because it is designed to get more conservative. It adjusts your allocation to get more conservative as you approach retirement. Because one of the things we have to remember is as we get closer to retirement, we have to play our game. We have to understand when it's time to make that change, to downshift in retirement towards more income, more preservation. That's not going all to cash or all to bonds. It's being able to have that balanced approach. But when we build our portfolio, I'm all about not missing out on the market upside. However, I want to do so. We want to do so in a risk-adjusted way that protects us from big downside swings that equity funds or single stocks are really commonly exposed to. So again, we have to become familiar with concepts known as downside deviation or sequence of return risk and understand how difficult it is for our portfolio to recover from steep market sell-offs, especially when we begin pulling from retirement, and the impact a down year when we're taking money out can have on the remaining portion of our retirement. It's a significant negative impact. So instead, we want to aim to build a portfolio that can participate both in the upside, but help smooth out the ride when volatility occurs and grow in other ways, whether it's through income or dividends. And this is what's known as total return investing. And as we dive into our final topic, we're going to go through what our final 5 to 10 years absolutely have to look like as we conclude to get ready for your ideal retirement. Number 1, to the best of your power, maximize your contributions immediately. If you're not saving at least 10 to 15% of your income into your 401k, do so now. Hit pause, get your legal pad out, do your budget, find that extra savings within your budget to kickstart your retirement savings. Number 2, use catch-up contributions to your advantage. Again, remember, if you're over the age of 50, you get that extra $7,500, and even more if you're between the ages of 60 to 63. We have these super catch-up provisions that we talked about earlier. Number 3, make sure you're getting every dollar of your employer match. This one's self-explanatory. It's free money. Don't leave it on the table. Number 4, automate. Set your 401k to increase automatically each and every year. It's 1%. You're not going to notice it. Number 5, review your investments. Are you taking on too much risk? Whether it's using target date funds, having a balanced approach, do not try this close to retirement to beat the market. Mistakes this deep in the game can prove to be costly. At this stage, consistency absolutely matters more than trying to hit home runs. Number 6, avoid loans at all costs, right? Protect your retirement savings like your life depends on it, because your retirement lifestyle absolutely does. So do not use your loans this deep into the retirement game. Number 7, calculate your actual need. I made a whole video on how to calculate those numbers. Again, we'll link to it in the show notes. Make sure we don't get lost into these studies from Vanguard, but we know our numbers. And lastly, number 8, consider working longer if you need to. You'd be surprised. Every additional year of work actually does 3 things for you. It adds more to your savings. It gives your current savings more time to grow and accumulate and compound. And number 3, most people miss this, it reduces the number of years you actually need your savings to last. So working from 65 to actually 67 can dramatically improve your retirement security. Now, the data, and I can tell you as a retirement planner for over a decade, the most successful individuals with retirement savings, they don't rely on luck and chance. Instead, though, they have a written financial plan. They have a systematic approach for how they go about contributions, bonuses, savings, catch-ups, investments, distributions in retirement. And so if you find yourself 55, decade left, you've got it 1 decade to get this right, these decisions you make are going to be paramount. They're going to be critical to determine whether or not you retire comfortably or continue to struggle. Do not procrastinate. Do not hope that it works out. Do not leave it to chance. Instead, take the information from this video and take action. And if you need help implementing these optimization strategies, that's what we're here for. Click on the link in the video below. We will send you a personalized Loom video documenting each step that you need to take to optimize your retirement plan as a whole. Again, hope you found this to be helpful. We will see you in the next video.